Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Check, 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 check. Can you hear me, Zoe? Hello. Check, check. Okay, thank you. Check, check. Christmas music until everybody shows up.
Welcome to your super secret gifting room. Come on in. We've hidden something for everyone.
From the iMarkets Live TV channel. Okay, appreciate it, guys. I don't know what's wrong. It won't let me connect to the livecast servers. Maybe they fired me as an educator. Just didn't tell me. We'll just give everybody else who's going to come a few more minutes to get on. Just another minute or two to get the stragglers get over here. Sorry about that, guys. I had a choice of canceling or doing this, so I'm a Christmas music fan, Wayne. So I listen to everything from jazz to Alvin and the Chipmunks to Bublé to Dean Martin. Just Christmas music. Yeah, this is the difference between Livecast and GoToWebinar. Greetings, everybody. Nope, you won't see chats from other members. I do not allow that in my sessions because it's distracting to me, and you need to be listening to me and watching me, not chatting with other traders. So if I had my choice in Livecast, it would be eliminated. I could turn it on so you can see each other's chat, but I won't do it. Hello, greetings. All right, so I apologize for the inconvenience. I'll keep it short accordingly. But I figured I could cancel, or at least I could get something across. So before I go any further, let me make sure I'm going to record this. It should have been. It is now. I clicked it again. All right, thank you for reminding me, whoever said that. Who was that? Ariel. Yep. All right, so it is for December here in the States on the West Coast. This is the Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Scans, Forks, and Fibos channel live session. So two things I want to talk about today, and then we'll cut it short just because of the inconvenience here. And you all have already been waiting a good period of time. Is there anybody that's brand new as of tonight to the session, either brand new to the Scans, Forks, and FIBA group, or brand new to IML, or brand new to the live session of the Scans, Forks, and FIBA group? Okay. So again, my apologies for your first visit with us having a technical snafu. This is only the second one I've had in 3 months or whatever. The first one was the first night I tried to do one. And I'm having a little bit, at least I was able to connect then, it's just nothing worked. Tonight I can't even connect to the livecast servers, which was a little strange because when I signed in the livecast, all my output settings had been changed. So something went wrong, and even though I finally reconfigured the output settings, it still wouldn't let me connect. So something's going on. Like I said, maybe Christopher Terry got tired of hearing about me, so he fired me, and they just won't let me connect. If so, we're at least having one more session here tonight with GoToWebinar. So let's talk about a couple of things. The first thing I want to do is, so let me do this. Let me put up our group information screen. For those of you that are brand new to this session, please take a screenshot of that and we'll explain it at the end. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, well, I've had GoToWebinar forever. I've had GoToMeeting for a long time, and then I upgraded to GoToWebinar. But total time on GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar is now over 3,500 hours of broadcasts, which is quite a bit. That averages to 350 hours a year for a decade. So If you're brand new, take this screenshot, please, and then we'll explain it at the end. So tonight I want to just bring a little bit more clarity to the concept of the scanner and why, we have to be careful with lines, with price movement past the entry line, and what's really going on when that happens. So the first thing you have to understand is that in reality, the IML scanner is different than most other harmonic scanner that are out in the marketplace. It has several good to great features, but it has one feature that just makes it different. And unfortunately, that difference gives you a false impression of what's going on. So what do I mean by that? I'm just going to draw the right wing of the scan. And remember, from wherever price is down here, which is the C coming up now, first of all, the scan waits until 91% of that distance is covered. And again, that's an IML specific. That's not the way, scanners in general work. But that's the way the IML scanner works. And what that means is when we finally get up to that 91%, well, let me talk about if it could paint it after the C. What would it look like? So what happens with that scan, the way the information is real, is the scan, before the scan is complete, the scan would paint that wing with the wing top on the entry line. Here's price down here. It would paint it so it looked like that. And so it always paints immediately above the price at the calculated point on the chart. What happens then as price continues to move north, okay, as price continues to move north and east over here, the scan would repaint. Once again, it stays immediately above price. Oh, yeah. That's an interesting scan. Oh, man. It's been one of these technology weekends. I don't want to be a law of attraction freak here, but oh my God, the weekend I've had. All right. So what would happen as price continues to move north and east? And this doesn't do it in blocks of time. It does this real time. Okay. So as price continues to move eastbound, the D on the scan would continue to plot right immediately above price, and this D would then just scoot eastbound with time along that line. It does not paint above it or below it. And then as price gets real close to the scan, to the entry line, let's say here, once again, if you looked at the scan at that point, the scan would be right at that entry line, right immediately above price. So, and that's because the scan is based on this line. Okay. Now, Chris obviously has his reasons for doing what he does. I have some suspicions about it, but never really discussed it with him. But that's how the technical nature of a scan would work. So what happens then if price reverses short of the green entry line? It would look and stay just like that. Price wouldn't do anything else. The scan wouldn't come down and meet this reversal point. For the scan to repaint and come down really takes away from the validity of the scan. What happens then if price goes past the line? Well, guess what? Same thing. Nothing changes in the scan. It will move eastbound if price moves eastbound. So if price was going way east, as it was continuing to go north, as it would go way east, then of course, as soon as it's right there, the scan would repaint and it would have its outside wing there. Now, what happens if price continues up? The scan stays there. So all that does in how the real world, not the IML world, but the real world, what we're really saying is this line has significance to the reversal point. The scan wing height is calculated based on Fibonacci relationships of that. And therefore, the number that you see connecting the D back to wherever it's connecting to, that number, regardless of where price is, that number in a little tiny rectangle box somewhere, it's kind of got rounded edges on it, but there's a rectangle box there. That number would remain the same no matter where price was. If it was here, if it was here, it was here, because this is the line. That line is calculated based on this Fibonacci, and this number would remain the same. Does everybody get that that's how it would work? Check, check. Say yes. So when price leaves the line here, let me erase this other stuff because I don't want you to be distracted. So let me just green. I'll use white for price. Now, the higher this goes, the more eastbound, the D will continue to move, but on this vertical, on this horizontal line. And move on that horizontal line. So when price goes up here and then does some big drop, that drop is not associated with this scan. 2 to 3 pips either side were cool. Okay. But the drop then is not associated with this scan. What it is associated with is something else that's at that level. Some other support and resistance line. And then what will help you understand why price turned there is whatever support and resistance line this is, or in this case, well, I'll say support and resistance, we're seeing as resistance. In the past somewhere, it might have served as support. And we also might have seen it serve as resistance, which would make it a super strong support and resistance line. When you get opposing use out of the S&R line, one side there are hits down as support and then there are hits up as resistance, and it's holding it to the pip, that's a real strong line. So again, we are a little confused, and the way the IML scanner works adds to that confusion. Because the scanner, the IML scanner now, will essentially, not true to what a scan does, will paint what you guys say is repainting the scan, and it'll repaint it up here to this point. And it looks like the scan is causing the reversal. It's not. Now again, within a pip or two, it probably is. When it gets this far out, it's not. It's some other support and resistance that's on the chart. So as a player, what you do then is, as price is working its way up, so as the IML, as the price hits the 91% distance from C to the calculated D, and the scan gets painted there, 91% of C to D, 91% of C to the calculated D, the scan gets painted. You should start looking for major support and resistance above and below the D. So pick a box, run it backwards. Run that box backwards and look for anything that might be in that box, you know, going back that you can see many touches to. This isn't going to work, as I said the other day, it's not going to work to bring, except one in a blue moon, it's not going to work to bring your 4-hour support and resistance work to a 15-minute chart. It'll work, but you might have, from this D, you might have your first 4-hour support and resistance zone 150 pips away in that direction, and another one here, 80 pips or 280 pips away in that direction. So 4-hour support and resistance is for swing trading. It's not for intraday trading. Is it Varish? Varish? Sorry with my pronunciation. Yes, that's correct. So I'm not going to repeat his question. I'm sorry, but I'm going to answer his question. %91 refers to the distance from the C leg. So we had a X, A, B, C. At that point, D is calculated. That D line is known. So I hate to tell you, but I'm just being frank with you. So we have our X to A to B, and then we have our B to C. At the time price starts leaving the C, this D is calculated. It's already there. That line is there. That price value is known. It's a Fibonacci relationship. And so that value is already known. So technically, that line could go up there and plot there, even though price is just down here, just left C. For intraday traders, should they be using 15-minute to 1-hour charts and charting on the 1-hour charts? No, you use the 15-minute chart, and the ideal is to trade down on a 1-minute chart, a 1-minute, 3-minute, 5-minute chart, which is why we recommend everybody use TradingView. Oh, Cindy didn't like my answer. They left as soon as I gave it to them. So the no, Varish, it's not 91% of a chance of going to the D. This line doesn't paint the line. Listen again. Once prices hit the C and it starts going up, this line is already known. It doesn't paint on the IML scanner. If you want to paint that line, All you have to do is be following along with your own scans. Paint them yourself. Get Carney's books or get a diagram and start drawing these relationships, learning them, and you'll be able to draw this line before it ever gets painted on your IML scanner. Once this C is established based on pattern algorithms, it tests everything with pattern algorithms. Once this pattern is known, this line is already known. However, it's known down here in that time. However, IML doesn't paint it until the CD leg is 91% of the distance up there. So that's when the scan gets painted, at 91%. But that line can be calculated down here as soon as it leaves the C. IML chooses for their scanner not to paint until 91%. The second thing they choose to do is distort the scan by repainting the D above and below the calculated line. It's just the way the scanner was programmed. So it will paint all the way up here. If price goes past it, which technically it shouldn't do. That's why these numbers, as I said, in the little boxes over here, these numbers get distorted. When price is at the D, that number should be in the range of what the pattern will allow. Which is why as it continues to rise, you will very often break the allowable range for that pattern. That's why the pattern is dead. But the IML scanner makes it look like that pattern is still there and continue to repaints it with the D moving up. Makes sense? So you have to go somewhere and you have to go look. Now, I continue to do you guys a lot of favors. I'm not trying to get pats on the back for that. But I'm going to release my intraday navigation system, which is a set of support and resistance for intraday charts. So if you're on TradingView here in the not too distant future, within a week or 10 days, that whole INS will be in there. There's 5 or 6 major intraday support systems. So what I do, let's just say there's 5. What I do is open that format box up, and on that format box, there's a little checklist. So as price starts approaching, let me clean this up a little because my chart, when I draw from scratch, my charts get very busy fast because I put out a lot of information. Okay, so what happens then is there's my price line. It's plotted on my chart. Price has already gone 91% from C to D, or from C to that line. There's price. I open my INS navigation system, and I start clicking one by one to see if there's any lines in that range. As I said, I want to know if there's anything close by in here. So I start clicking through the intraday support system that I have, and lo and behold, boom, I get a line for one of my systems. That's a pretty good system, where 4 pips above the green line, I have one of the major lines for that system. I'll check the others. I want to see what's going on with the others. But if that's the only one that remains, I'll just duplicate that line, take all the INS then off the charts. I just one click and all this will all go away. But there it is. So now I watch, and if price starts leaving the entry line, my guess is it's going to go there. And if it hits there and starts bouncing, I have a trade. But that is no longer a scan trade. The scan trade ended. The scan trade ended there. Now, in terms of what we do with scan trades, that's because we use very tight stop losses. Remember, again, the scanner also paints this big fat stop loss up here. And so if you want to trade that with the scan, that's fine. Because what's really happening when you do that, when you take your stop loss from the green line up there, what the scan understands is you're in a heavily zoned area for a turnaround. The trouble is, from a technical perspective, it still makes it look like it's the scan that's turning it around. And as I said, you may have a line like this that's on the charts that's not part of the scan. It's some other support and resistance system. And it's the thing that turns price around. It just happens to be in the zone that you have open with your stop loss. So if you want to use that stop loss, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but for a 15-minute scan, maybe that's 40 pips. Maybe that's 85 pips. Which means versus using the 10 pip stop loss. See, this is what traders forget. This is why I go way back with what I teach you guys. You've got to think about the money. Do the math. And there's traders, and I get it. I was a brand new trader one day too. Hell, I was probably a brand new trader for about 18 months. And if I could use it as a good defense, I'll still call myself as a brand new trader. Oh, I didn't understand that. I'm a brand new trader 14 years later. So, but here, remember, do the math. So you entered the green line. And even if your 10 pip stop loss, your 10 pip stop loss may not have triggered, how would I say, your 10 pip stop loss may not have triggered because this support and resistance system, which was 6 pips away from the green entry line, is still valid because your stop loss didn't get stopped. And so you would get that trade. Even if you entered because there was a little pullback here at the green line and then price retreated back to the actual cause of the reversal and then it dropped, you don't get stopped out. But because you're in there with the 10 pip stop loss, 10 pip stop loss, you are still gaining 2 pips, 2% every 10 pips, assuming you put 2% into a 10 pip stop loss. So if this guy up here that says, oh, I'll use the system stop loss and it's 40 pips back, he has to go 40 pips versus your 10 to gain the same 2%. Or another way of saying it, by the time you get down to 40%, he's made 2%, you've made 8%. And trust me, that compounds real fast over trades. He says, well, 10 pips is too big. You'll get stopped out. Okay, so I get stopped out. Price moves to what I see as another support and resistance line. I enter there. And now it comes down. And the other guy's laughing, ha ha, you guys stopped out and I didn't. Well, think about it. If it went 40 pips and he didn't get stopped out, he made 2%. You went 40 pips, you got your 40 pips or your 50 pips, whatever it is, and you got stopped out once for minus 2%, but you also made 8% in that 40 pip run. So even though you're in there with a tighter stop, even though you got stopped out once, you're still making 3 times the profit he makes. And when you start multiplying that trade after trade after trade, you're done. I'm not sure what you mean indicators trigger. Give me a little bit more depth in your question. Where do we find your indicator / trigger? Okay, so I want to convey two things the scan at IML continues to paint and repaint, and you should be able to see, because at that point, once the scan's painted, it'll tell you what it is. Oh, this is a deep crab. You should have a little flip chart or a little page printed out that shows what a deep crab is and what the allowable percentages are for the D. And when that little box exceeds the parameters, then you know this scan is no longer valid. Oh, I said I'll be releasing that sometime in the next week to 10 days. It's out there right now, but right now it's invite only. It's part of the system that my traders already get, my Pip Club traders. So that INS component we'll have out there. I'll either just change the status to where it doesn't need to be, so it's not invite only, or we'll have a second set out there in there. So there you have it. The scan can be a little misleading because the scan continues to print even though the scan is no longer valid. Any questions on that? Okay, so I want to talk the second part tonight to flush out, and I got to pick it up a little here because we're already at pushing 7 o'clock. If you see a resistance line, see you're being confused because it looks like there's a new line there because the D continues to move. But what's happening is the scan's D, once it significantly leaves the green line, it continues to grow and it reverses on something else, but it's going to look like the scan reversed it. See, if you go and look at all the previous scans, you go, wow, this scan's really accurate. Every time price hits the D, it reverses. Hey, it's great for marketing. No, if it hits your entry line, if price hits your entry line and you quick fire qualify it, it's a trade. I'm just saying if it reverses in the next, before it backs up 10 pips on you, what it's reversing on is not the scan. It's something else. Please understand, this is not hard to understand. I'm not saying wait for anything. If you have price touching your entry line and it's quick fire qualified, you have a trade. I'm not saying wait for anything. I'm saying if the eventuality is it turns around higher than that, significantly higher, more than a couple of pips, then the thing that's turning around is not the scan. You think it's the scan because the D has continued to move up and painted there. It's not. Something else is reversing it. And what I'm saying is if you want to get your act together, you want to start finding out once it leaves the D, once it leaves the entry price line, and continues to grow on you instead of going in your favor, instead of reversing, you want to see if there's stuff there that can actually reverse it. Other forms of support and resistance. If your first entry is from the higher resistance line, not just because it's reversing, but because you know there's a support and resistance line because you found one, and in history, that same line has bounced price before, either from the top or the bottom, then you can make that your first entry into a trade. You are no longer trading the scan. Yes, you would use a 10 pip stop loss there. This is why we often say on your, people, I don't want to learn Charlie Delta. I'm just learning quickfire right now. And it's like, well, okay. But what if, and this is where playing with X-ray alpha comes in. No. See, the nice thing is your X-ray alpha paints before the D. It doesn't paint before the D. It paints before the price. Well, as the scanner runs it, your green line is up here. Yeah, your green line. Oh my, just sometimes. So there you go. The X-ray alpha is already available. So you could come in, and what we say often to do, if the CD is wider than XA, okay, so I can't draw from X through C on a pitchfork with X, that's D, not C. My artistic abilities have left me today. Not that I ever had them, but. So that's why we say one of the things you can do is draw your pitchfork, your X-ray alpha, in such a way that, because that's a best fit, it's not a traditional, that you use the C touch, because very often that will give you something, and I don't want to make it touch the D, I wish I had made the X bigger, but let's just say that was, it went like that. So what happens then is that gives you reason to potentially see price leave the price line, the entry line, and continue on up. And then it would reverse there. That's one form of a resistance line that's readily in place for you to use that has more power than any horizontal line you could have, would be that pitchfork. If price is short or price is past the green line, look for something causing it to bounce. It couldn't be more simpler. And that's going to be something you need to carry with you the rest of your trading career. I don't care what you're trading. It's nothing specific to scans. It's just here we have a predicted line, and you want to know how valid that line might be, or if there's slippage on it. And once you get past the zone of slippage, in terms of the depth, you want to know if there's something in the immediacy that makes sense that could turn price. And the only way you can do that is by going back in time and looking to see if there's something in that zone that has consistently turned price. All right, so I'm going to end that topic. So this is a little advice. We're nearing the year end, and this is the time traders should be planning the next year. You should be planning 2018. Now, we have a mixture of terminology here, so I want to differentiate the difference between being an IML member let's just talk about an IML member. Now, what I'm going to say here is you need to know you. So, yesterday in the Scans, Forks, and Fibo group, I put up a Cyber Week offer, if you will, for Goalmaker. It's that time of year. You need to be planning your 2018 as a trader, as an IML member. Know who you are and what you want before picking an IML product that you want to pursue with any vigor. So this is not trading advice. This is my advice to you to find success. So listen closely to this part. Take notes on this part. Some of you are making big mistakes that are going to haunt you in the future. And you think you're doing the right thing, but the reason you think you're doing the right thing is because the ego is pulling your puppet strings. See, as soon as I get away from the technical stuff, I start seeing people drop off. The advantage of GoToWebinar, one, is I can see who's paying attention. Because when you're doing something else, when you've got email up or you got Google up, I can see who does that. GoToWebinar tells me that. So I know you're not watching the GoToWebinar session because you have something sitting on top of it. I get that feedback. It's nice. The other thing is I can see when people come and go, which is it's much easier to see because I have an attendee count. Okay, so back to being an IML member and knowing who you are. What I mean by that is this. You have to determine what's best for you. You come to IML, you have to determine what's best for you. What's best for you means it involves a few things. Your lifestyle. How much time what is your real opportunity to participate in the Forex market? I'm talking both time availability and ability to commit to that time. So that's a big factor on which IML products you should be using. Both, and maybe you start with one and move somewhere else. But right now, you have a lifestyle. Right now, if you have a job, if you have a wife who has a job and you have babysitting duty, or vice versa, or you've got church and bowling and whatever, you know what kind of time you have available. And it's unrealistic to think you're going to put 100% of that time long term into something. You're going to need your free time. You're going to need your balance now and then, because part of one of the IML member offerings is becoming a trader. And that is a long haul with very little reward along the way. Now, if you follow the Goalmaker system, you'll learn how to overcome some of that. But got to stick in those little promos here and there. So who are you? What do you want? Your lifestyle is a big thing. Second thing is, where do you see yourself in terms of control? What do I mean by control? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And then, how do you get there? Look, I'm an educator for IML. I'm an IML member. I am an IML member. I use IML products. And, every day I say my thanks and gratitude for those IML products. The reality is, any one of those products could vaporize. The reality is, IML could potentially vaporize. Somebody comes along, hey, Chris Terry, I'll give you $1 billion for IML. He sells it, and they decide you're going to have to pay $350 a month to access their products, and all of a sudden it's not part of your budget. You never know what's going to happen, guys. So some of the IML products take you out of control. Now, sometimes you have to go with that because that's what your lifestyle dictates. Okay. So hold on, Jason's trying to talk to me right now. So control. And I'm not placing judgment on it, but where are you with control? How do you sense control in your life? How do you sense control in your endeavors? What's your objective with IML? What's your objective with the Forex? Do you want to be in control? What do I mean by control? Let me give you opposing examples. You are using the fusion trader, a fusion trader, or a mirror trader. Let's say you're using a mirror trader. At that point, you have control over things like risk and how much dollars you're going to put in your account. You don't have control over the trades. You're not making the trades. And let's say you hook up with somebody and they're bringing you 35% return a week, man. The guy's kicking it. And then he decides to go work for Citibank and he's no longer there. Here you are, you budget it out, you got 35% a week that you're counting on, and all of a sudden you're back down to somebody that's doing 5% a week. Still great, but it ain't 35. You can't control that situation. You can't control if mirror trading is going to be something that's, here a year from now or 3 years from now. If your lifestyle right now says that's what you need to do because you don't have time to learn how to trade, well, that's okay. It is one of the product offerings you have. Control on the other extreme says, I'm going to take the time because I have it and I will commit to it and I will do whatever it takes, persist without exception, whether it takes me 3 months, 6 months, or 16 months. I'm going to learn how to trade because that controls my future. If I want to, in the future, do more with stocks, I can take the technical analysis skills I learned in trading the Forex and apply it to the stock market. If I want to be a precious metals investor, I can do technical analysis on gold and know which dips are there, when to buy in those dips, when the dips have ended, and when the bull run is continuing again. If I want to be a crypto investor, same thing. I have the skills to do that. So you are in control. And so as that person, as the trader person, you want to amass as much knowledge as you can as soon as you can. So you've got control, you've got the decision to be a trader or not. A trader can trade the market, any pair. A trader, if needed, can move to another market, stocks, crypto, etc., because that knowledge is transferable. The trader is in control. You're not dependent on others for your financial gain. But that control comes at a cost because learning without compensation until the knowledge is enough to trade for consistent success, that takes a commitment. That takes a dedication. Another thing would be spousal support. I've talked a little about this in the goal maker perspective, from a trader perspective in goal maker. But if you absolutely have a spouse because I have a very dear friend that had to leave the Forex market because of this, ended up rendezvousing with his high school sweetheart, and you are going to have nothing to do with this trading stuff as a trader, because she didn't want him spending time on the charts. She was jealous of the charts. I'm off, you need to be with me. Now, his choice to accept that or not, but he did. So what do you do if you don't have spouse or significant others? Maybe it's parents, maybe it's a fiance, maybe you're not married yet, life partner, whatever your circumstances are. If you have somebody that's part of your life and, your need to make them happy is part of your life, then, you're going to have their support for being a trader. In order to have that control now and down the road, you're going to have their tremendous support. And if you don't, then it tells you your IML membership needs to shift to other products that you can make money off of without active time. your own personality, habits, rituals, belief sets, etc. While we can sometimes retrain small to even major portions of our personalities, that takes effort. There's some IML offerings that do not require personal growth. Others demand it. If you want to take, religiously, just in swipe trades, you don't have to do a lot of self-development work. All you have to do is execute his trades as he executes them. The trader has to go one step further. The trader has to evolve themselves as a person. They have to grow because of the demands of what trading is all about. Now, I have a personal, I will contend on that front that if you grow in order to be a successful trader, you can't compartmentalize that. That will benefit you everywhere else. Your general finances, that'll benefit you in your relationships with your significant other, your parents, your siblings, your coworkers, your neighbors, your old frat buddies, whatever it is, your relationships will get better. Your ability to grow in health and fitness. You'll learn that, we have one life, and guess what? I need to stop procrastinating getting to the gym because I learned how not to procrastinate as a trader. You can't compartmentalize your growth. It's going to affect all aspects of your life. So I would say, slightly towards 60-40 in terms of emails that I get in traders into the future, traders who have said, wow, I've been trading for 2 years now. Thanks, Steve. 60-40 in terms of those that say, learning to trade has been the biggest blessing in my life, not just because of the financial freedom they got, because what else changed in their life as a result of them changing. So the trader, becoming a trader, requires that. And then we have other things in our lives, both directly and indirectly. Job stress, family stress, financial stress. Those aren't good things to have to try and become a trader. You might want to use one of the other offerings. So if I were to classify them a little, and again, this is not from IML. This is from Steve Greger, a trader, and I'm just offering you my insight over many years and then looking at the IML offering. IML has, I could describe it as 3 types of offering, which is pretty fantastic when you think about it. This is what sets it aside from anything else. This is why it's on fire, because almost anybody can relate with one of these 3 offerings. One of the offerings is essentially, I'll just call it other people. That would include mirror trading. That would include, fusion trading. The characteristics here, low to essentially none involvement. Very low involvement on your part. And what that means then is time is a minimum. The negative on this is no control. Everybody with me on that column? Then you have kind of the same thing, other people, and I'll call it people, but your assistants, you're assisting them. Your participation. And that would be things like, so here, if we were talking about the offering, that would be like mirror trading as a classic example. Over here, this would be things like swipe trades. This would be things like the web analyzer. You're getting a signal, but you still have to do something with that signal. Here again, you have little control. I'm not going to say no control, but you have little control. Yes, you can say yes or no to a swipe trade. Yes, you can say yes or no to a web analyzer alert. But the reality is, are those things under your control? If you are now making money off the web analyzer and 2 months from now, Steve Hooley realizes it's a hot deal and Citibank offers him $1 billion for it, IML ain't going to have it anymore. So we have other people's system offerings. We have other people offerings with your participation. And then we have your trading. And then the offering there, of course, would be things like the IML Academy and IML TV. Now, here you have control. Now, that's not to say if you're brand new today and you're reliant on IML Academy and IML TV to get your knowledge, that if they go away in 2 weeks, you lose your control. That's true. But what I'm talking about is a year from now, 3 years from now, where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself trading for yourself, or do you see yourself still taking swipe trades? Right? So it's the difference. This tends to have a longer term outlook. Now, I will say this. If you're using the Mirror Trader and Fusion Traders and stuff like that, don't look to come in and make all your money in a particular month. Oh, I'd really need to make next month's rent, so I'm going to put everything I have into the Fusion Trader. Remember that I'm going to blind you. Hold on. It's going to go white. Oh, I need to do another page. That's what I need to do. Bad. Remember, with equity curves, most of your traders will have equity curves at some point. It doesn't mean they aren't great traders, because if they can take you from 0 to 60% for the year, hey, that's pretty good. Or 60% for the last 12 weeks, that's pretty good. But they are going to have pullbacks. And so when you divide that down into weeks, the reality is one trader could be doing okay, or one IML member could be doing okay, and another one crying. The difference being, did that IML trader or member sign up for Mirror Traders there? And therefore, even when the next pullback occurred, it was much higher than his original entry, and so he's still positive, and then it's going to grow. But let's say an IML member joins right here, and they see a 10-day pull down, drawdown by the trader, they're not going to be happy. So for things like, the trading products, you need a longer term, or you need to see it as an investment and not some sort of somebody's trading for you. You need to consider it like a blue chip stock, or investing in gold. You don't buy gold today to sell it tomorrow. You buy gold today speculatively if you've done, technical or your fundamental, however you want to view how you're going to invest in gold. You buy it today so to see what its price might be 3 years from now. It's totally money you don't need. And where IML has gotten its bad rap in some situations, bad rep, is where one set of traders come in here and they experience a drawdown right away, because that's what the trader does. Whereas these guys, they're happy, because by the time you get here, they've really made a lot of money. This guy says, I've been in all this time, and all I've got is that little bit of growth. So it's a timing mechanism when you get in here. That's why it has to have a little bit of a longer term look about it. Okay, but generally your trading is the product offering, IML member offering. You need to match up based on your circumstance, your lifestyle, your goals, your personality, the level of spousal support, how much time you have, what you're really looking for, how much control you want or are willing to give up, etc. Here's the mistake. You guys aren't coming in and looking at your offerings like that. You're not doing a categorization. Which person am I? What do these products really do? And I understand the person that brings you in should really influence you, at least to make you familiar with this concept. It's not something from IML. It's just something that should happen. We have enough product offerings now that we can suit anybody's situation. But it doesn't mean all of the offerings are good for everybody. Because guess what? Each one of these, here's the kicker, each one of these has kinda with an asterisk, each one of these has kinda their own RAS. At the big picture level. Now, what is the killer? In this case, where there's multiple offerings from IML, what's the biggest killer of RAS? Not understanding who you are and what you're taking as an offering from IML. And when you don't understand who you are and what offering you're taking and why you're using that particular offering, here's what's going to happen. In any one of these, you will jump based on the shiny object syndrome. So I've got a trader over here. He says, 3 years from now, I want to be trading my own money. 3 years from now, I want $1 million in the bank. I'm willing to give up 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week to get there. I've got my spouse on board for that 3-year goal. He's going to be extremely supportive. I put in little rewards along the way. So as I make milestones, I take the kids to Disney. Hey, take the kids to the park that week. I put celebrations in for the goals achieved. And I'm all about the patience, because I know at just 5 pips a day, 24 months from now, I can have 1.4, whatever it is, 3 million in the bank. So patience. But remember, there's a flat part of that curve, and then the arc takes off. This part of the curve wipes out a lot of traders because they sense they're not making progress. Progress by inches is still progress. And that starts compounding and compounding and compounding. You're good to go. So that guy has all that thing, his RAS is all in that, locked in on that. And then what does he do? Oh, he has some spare time that afternoon, and he sees one of his friends that's in another group says, "Oh man, the Holy Grail is finally here. I made 50 pips just today, and yesterday I made 50 pips." And all of a sudden, this guy says, all my plans, all my dreams, all my RAS to get here, that's just not worth anything anymore. I'm going to jump over here because shiny object over here looks very attractive. See, it's only about today's return. That's the only thing all of a sudden that qualifies which product you're taking is what return is going to bring today. Guys, that's crazy. Don't do that. Figure out which products fit into you. Know you. Plan about you. Build a future for you, meaning your lifestyle, your spouse, your personality, your commitment to growth, your commitment to study, your ability to go long term without reward. Boom, 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 boom. Now, if you want to take the mindset of earn while you learn, where you have little to no involvement, that's okay. I would say go open an account, find your favorite mirror or fusion trader, whatever, and lock into that with at least a 6 to 9 month run with that money. You're not going to touch it for 6 to 9 months. You don't have a need for it to pay next month's rent. And then, while that's cooking, so you went and put $5,000 over there, while that's cooking, you then say, that's nice, and as long as that works, it works. So, I'm taking a longer look at it. I'm still going to learn how to trade. That's my goal, is to be a trader. This is just something related. This is no different than if you truly understood, if you went to a financial advisor and you understood gold or you understood Bitcoin, taking $5,000 and put, or you go to your broker at AG Edwards or Schwab or whatever, and you say, hey, put this in, 3 or 4 different mutual funds, split it up, $1,250 in 4 different mutual funds. And then you come back and take a peek at it in 6 to 9 months. See how it's doing. Don't get up tomorrow and look at how your mutual fund is doing from yesterday to today. It's an investment. You do that with your money, then come over and learn how to trade. But I wouldn't mix these two categories. It's going to kill you. Trying to do swipe trades, trying to do web analyzer, and you're trying to be a trader. There's conflicting RAS. I'm not telling you what you should do. I'm not even recommending what you should do. I'm not recommending which products you should take. I am saying if you want to be successful in one or the other, you need to examine who you are, what you are, why you want to do what you want to do, and so shiny objects somewhere else aren't going to distract you. Yeah, you can't house divided. You can't serve 2 masters. Now, all that, any questions about that? Does that make sense? We got 3 kind of categories of products. One that you don't have to participate in, but it'll still work for you. You have little control over your destiny with it. And you need to be patient. You need to give it 6 to 9 months, and you need to set it aside, and that's not your source of income. There's one classification of product, and we got some or category or offering. We have some products in that category. The second one is you're still dependent on other people, but you're going to have some of your own participation. Swipe trades, web analyzer, etc. Third category, you're not relying on other people. Well, you are in a sense. You're relying on educators and, blah, blah, blah. But the goal is, if I look at myself 18 months from now, 12 months from now, 6 months from now for some of you, when do I have my independence? When can I, as much as I want to say stick around, when can you actually just go and trade pitchforks? Go swing the swing and cover, if a scan would come up, it would come up within your pitchforks. You don't need me for that. You don't need the IML Academy for that, technically. Hopefully, you're going to be making so much money that $145 a month, you're going to say, might as well hang around in case they bring something new to the table. But you're technically independent. If IML goes flames up, belly up, 2.5 years from now, you can still be there trading. Category 1 and 2, you're not going to be able to. You have to go somewhere else and start all over again. So again, I'm not telling you what category you should use. You have to make that determination, but you should have some criteria. Just like taking a trade, you should have criteria for this. It shouldn't be emotional. Oh, I heard Billy Bob is making this. Oh, Sally Sue typed in, she is too. So I better go run and chase that. This is where, if you get your head right, your relationship will be right too. Think of how many people you know. I don't care how old you are, from 20 to 90. Think of all the people you know whose relationships sadly ended because one or both of the partners in that relationship decided somewhere along the way the grass is greener elsewhere. It really wasn't, but it looked all shiny and bright, and so you chased it. And of course, most of the time, that just destroys your current relationship. So, think about this a little. You've got some time. The market's going to slow down, the last 2 weeks of the month. There'll still be trading, but the market will slow down. And it's a good time to spend some time with your family, with your loved ones, if, the holidays, regardless of what holidays you celebrate. And if not, then you still have to find some time here the last few weeks of the month to start review your year. I don't care if it's a month that's all that your year consists of, or if it's already a full year. Review your year. What was I trying to do? Did I really get there? Why didn't I get there? And then what am I doing next year? What's my 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goal? And then take that dream and break it down into tasks. Again, another plug for Goalmaker. It's just Goalmaker approaches it a lot different than what anybody else will from a goal making or goal setting or goal achievement perspective does. So do this, Goalmaker or not, do this. Find out who you are and what you want from the offering. I know a lot of people come to IML based on shiny object. It's an emotional thing. And that's okay. There's good product here. And like I said, you're going to fit into one of these categories, sometimes two of them, but be careful which two. Any questions about any of this? We good? Bring a little insight? Ray, I've got a long, I put about 20 minutes a day into a project that will make the previous sessions not necessary. That doesn't mean if you had access to it wouldn't be better, but it's not going to hold you back. So you've got to be the entrepreneur, you got to be the MacGyver, and it'll work out. Stay plugged into our group, iMarkets Live, Scans, Forks, and Fibos at Facebook, and we're good. All right, I don't see any new questions, so I'm really going to wrap this up. If you didn't catch it from beginning, I will have this in the what? Please explain how 5 pips a day can equal 1.3 million. Not today. If you do all of them, I don't know how you're doing it, because the mindset to focus and the RAS growth that you have to go through, which is 95% of your trading success, is different for things like the web analyzer and a general trader. And when you try and blend them together, your RAS gets confused. It doesn't know what you're really looking for. So when you get into the heat of the moment with one or the other, you end up kind of bastardizing the system. Well, I did it over there and it was okay. Why can't I do it here? That's how your subconscious mind is thinking. So what it does then is it's screening out things you need to see, and it's feeding you information that you don't need to see. And so your RAS gets confused. And confused RAS means inconsistent trading. Yeah, you can't move teams. Unfortunately, that's one thing, and that's for the protection of people, along the way. The only thing you can do is quit, and after 90 days, you can re-up and move teams at that point. But they're, and there's for good reason they do that. But it's okay, because 90% of my training efforts get put in here. So, I don't care if you're on another team. I'm here. Part of my effort here is not just as I'm not a IBO with the team and I'm here. I'm an educator at IML. I am an IBO and I do have my own team, but they're here. The ones that are interested in doing something are here. And I could look at this roster and I can't tell in depth whether you're on my team or not. I don't have, it's not I can, but it's not an intention of mine. It makes no difference. So that's part of me giving back, is I just want you to be successful. Say, that's me touching somebody else's life. And I don't even have to know you personally, whatever. But if I touch your life, hopefully someday the universe touches me back. I don't care if it doesn't, but I'm not doing it for that reason, but I'm doing it to help other people succeed. It's really hard to look up in the organization. There's not ways, I mean, I can't even look up 2 levels above me, So if I know who's 2 levels above me, it's because I have an active team and I know the players. But from a trading side, even from the IBO side, it's not built that way. It's not built for you to look up and see who's in your upline. It's built so we can look down and see who's in our teams down below if we go way in depth and breadth. But again, that doesn't matter. If you're an active IML member, just get involved in our group. And I think, we have our ebbs and flows. I don't say web and flow. We have our ebbs and flow. In far as our effort to support people, and it's a struggle. We're getting there. We're kind of reorganizing some things. It's going to pick back up and get a little stronger. But we've also grown some traders in this room, and some traders in this room have stepped up and are just days, weeks away from being moderators, and a lot of them already volunteer, peer to peer with their skill and learned knowledge. They're already paying it forward and giving back too. So that's what community does. And so, and again, they're doing the same thing. You may be on some other team. They may not even be 75% of the customers are not. There's 40,000 members right now and 8,000 IBOs. So that's just 1 out of 5. So 80% are customers. So a lot of peer-to-peer help in here is just, peer-to-peer. There are uplines in here where the leaders, email me, Facebook me, talk to me, and I help them as much so they can help their team. They're competitors technically, but I don't see it that way. I see them as a leader who's also trying to touch somebody else's life. So if I can help them touch somebody else's life, then, my job's done too. Yeah, so there you go. Tim says, I'll buy you that cruise. The only thing I say is, if you feel you've learned from me when you finally grow your $5,000, $10,000 account to $100,000, then you can send me on a cruise for 2 to the Caribbean. Tickets welcome. I'll be glad when you're ready to give you my mailing address to send them to me. But other than that, I have blinders on as to who you are, where you're from, or which group or whatever. All right, I'm going to shut it down. So we didn't go 2 hours. We only essentially went an hour and a half or an hour and 25 minutes once we got things run up. I wish we could use this all the time, but they're not set up for that. And, it's the way it is. I have some ideas about that, and I'll be talking to Jason about it. But right now, what we have is what we have. So with that, today's Monday. I'll see you guys Wednesday. If something happens where we have to meet here again because I can't get Wirecast figured out or I don't get the support I need, then we'll post a link. But other than that, we should be back on Wirecast in the IML TV channel on Wednesday. So with that, I will sign off, reminding you that life can be short. So for those people you care and love, please let them know you care and love them almost as much as I love you guys. Check you out. See you in Facebook land and on Wednesday.